Hi, these are your Jesse Mack one word or less comic reviews for August 2019. Hate that I bought this shirt. Love that I bought this shirt. Scream Wieners. Gladsome. Gratifying. Cogent. Heartening. Confident. Crushing. Meticulous. Do I dare say it? Explosive. Ass. Peerless. Alright, let me delve a little deeper than one word now into these comic books. Alright. Jimmy Olsen Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen continues to be quite a fun book. This issue, I feel, didn't poke holes as good as the first one did. That's not a phrase. Poke holes is not a phrase, not in that way at least. But first one did more for me than the second one. Second one's still really good. Here's on me. But yeah, the page with all of the Superman footage was flipping aces. The rest of it, it's going somewhere, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it's going. Right now, it's good. It's real good. Unbeatable Squirrel Girl is barreling toward the conclusion of this run that Ryan North has done with Erica Henderson and now with Derek Charm. Wonderful, beautiful thing. I can't imagine enjoying Squirrel Girl as much with somebody else at the helm, so this is a very sad time. But they're doing that thing that you do sometimes at the end of a run, where it's like, okay, we're coming up on the end. Let's make as large of a threat as possible, and that's always a good story. So maybe it's not always a good story, but I think this is going to be real good. And this first issue, some big changes, some real good dialogue. It's Squirrel Girl. Like, why am I trying to explain how good it is? Y'all know. It's real good. Marvel Comics 1000. I thought about not buying this because it's a $10 comic that I know nothing about, that seems like it's built on a foundation of gimmick. And this is all true. But at the same time, Al Ewing told a story through it that was engaging. And if I'd known that he was the sort of the mind behind everything, I would have not had any second thoughts, because I love the work that guy has done on... did he do Loki? No, it's Charles Soule who did Loki. The Ultimate Squared, or the Ultimates 2 at least, was very, very enjoyable. I like the way he's like a less Hickman-y Jonathan Hickman. And it's a lot of layers and big scope, and I very much enjoy it. And to take a character that I knew zero about, didn't know existed, or I guess in this case less of a character and more of just a mask, but yeah, it goes either way, and create a whole backstory for it, a $10 backstory that I happily munched through. I felt myself getting disappointed when the pages were throwaway gags. And it's like, no, I want to know more about the mask. Like, give me more about the freaking mask. This is great. So that was a shock for me, and I enjoyed it, and yeah, good times. Also, there were like 20 different covers. It was too many covers, too many variant covers. So Spider-Man, A Life Story, or not a life story, just Spider-Man Life Story, wrapped up. And I can't say enough about how weird it is for me to be emotionally moved by the guy who wrote Howard the Duck comics and drew all those peens and boobs in Sex Criminals. But yeah, Zdarsky has depth, and it's real good. I did not enjoy the first few issues of his Spider-Man run enough, and I dropped it, and apparently I made a huge mistake, that he had some real good stuff in that run. I should probably double back and get on that, or at least that one issue that was a super standout emotional thing. But this was an interesting entity, where it is just, I'm going to tell a story of Spider-Man from, just I'm trying to think of a phrase that doesn't have butts in it. I can't. Head to toe. That's one. That is actually a phrase people use. Like a story that is head to toe, just, from the moment he became Spider-Man to the moment he is put in his grave, metaphorically speaking at least, just here is a life that a Spider-Man could lead. And it riffs on things we already know, things that we accept as true in canon, and plays with it and goes in different directions. And this is a great way to tell such a story. Like it didn't overstay its welcome, doing one issue with a sneak, not a sneak. Use the wrong word again. Why am I so bad at words? It had a peek into a single story from each decade of his life as Spider-Man at the very least, and it was freaking good, and I enjoyed it quite a bit, and this stuck the landing nicely. Just a very good, solid as heck way to wrap up. It was the best Old Man Spider-Man story I've ever read, partly because I can't think of how many stories they've had with Spider-Man being in his 60s, 70s, so yeah, yeah. How's Thor doing? Thor's good. I like the progress that War of the Realms gave us in the story that Jason Aaron is telling, and this was a very good look at who Thor can be from this point forward, and I liked the Odin stuff quite a bit. I thought having Odin turn a leaf in the last few months is it's very gratifying. It's weird. It's always weird to talk about fiction as though it's real, because it becomes real when you read it. But I love who this man has become, and it was both sudden and not sudden at the same time, where it just the sudden realization that he has been wrong for millennia, and him trying to deal with that and grow is, probably the best thing that happened in the last few months of Thor, even though a lot of great things happened. Plus, Thori is still around. That, as a dog that wants to murder, that's good. There's a lot of good stuff going on. Can't wait for King Thor. I'm going to be real sad when Jason Aaron is no longer writing anything Thor-related. Yes. City of Bane in Batman has been a real curious thing, and I think I've touched upon this in the past month or two as well, where it reminds me of at the end of Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely's new X-Men run. I guess Quitely started it and participated through it, but it was it Silvestri who did that last one? Doesn't matter. Grant Morrison's new X-Men run, where by the end of it, it was like, okay, we've told this amazing, far-arcing story, and then we have this weird, future story that ties into things and kind of, ties up loose ends and creates new ones, but it sort of just feels like an extra side story that doesn't exist. That's the vibe I get from this, even though it's clearly happening in continuity and it's all real and everything. It just feels kind of tacked on. It feels like we have upped the stakes artificially. Everything else in this this run of Batman has been so organically built that to close one issue and open up the next one, and it's just Bane runs Gotham. Nobody can get in. Everything's villainous. It felt it was too much, perhaps. Even though I am enjoying it, and I think it will be it'll be wrapped up nicely. It's sort of it's got me in a weird place. This particular issue, though, had some real punchy stuff. No pun intended with the pow biff wham. But as far as the dialogue, I loved the way Robin and the other Batman's dialogue together. Their conversation was beautiful. And the stuff with the cat and the bat and the moment, it was very well done, and I'm hoping that this also can stick that landing, because I'm Cautiously optimistic. When they don't have the regular cover and you get stuck with the variant cover, even though this is cute, but I'm a regular covers guy. House of X. House of X and Powers of X have both been real good, and two issues of House of X, both issues of House of X that came out this month, are on my top 10 list, and neither of the Powers are, and that is unfair, because I've been enjoying that very much as well. It's like, I feel like those two issues of Powers of X did so much world building and backstory, and they did more of the future story, which honestly I'm more invested in the human machine mutant wars in X plus 100 than I am in the current day stuff. But for some reason these two issues pop more for me than the other two. But this issue in particular, it's just very nice, encapsulated, just all of the human fear and the mutant, not bravado. Bravado's not the word I'm looking for, but like their overconfidence, and it's just like, no, we got this, we're gonna get it, and then it doesn't look like they got it at the end of the issue. I am very much looking forward to this next Wednesday, because I'm actually doing this review on time for once. Whoop-de-doo. I'm looking forward to seeing how this pans out, because you're probably not killing Wolverine and Jean Grey and Nightcrawler and etc., etc., etc. But what happens next? Who did or didn't make it out? What's going on? Yeah, very good stuff. Oh, Pearl. Yeah, Pearl. I am hungry to see a volume 2 of Pearl, because, man, I am jazzed about these characters. I really enjoyed issue 12, but also I was missing the middle 4 pages, and I didn't realize it until I saw somebody post a spread, like a 2-page spread, that I only had half of in my book. I'd pull it up, which is like, I'm missing 4 pages here. I'm getting only half of the Nagasaki 9. But even without that, which is, I feel like those are some of the most important pages in the issue, even without that story beat that explains everything, and like, pretty much the actual climax of the scene and of the story itself, I'm missing that, and I still loved this comic. I'm looking forward to picking up a different issue, like another copy of this that doesn't have the pages missing, or pick it up in trade, or, oh man, if they could make an Absolute Pearl and I could just spend $100 and then look at this art real big, I would love that. But man, they have set up such a good story, and this is Bendis at his the best version of Brian Michael Bendis for my money. It's real good. Only reason that was not my favorite comic this month is that there's Die. Die continues to be what Die is, for best and for worst. Kieran Gillen is a real butthole of a writer. There's actually some like a column in the back where he talks about it, and he talks about how in Matt Fraction's run of Hawkeye, he had 2 rules: that the 2 stars don't do it, and that the dog doesn't die, and that he wishes he was as good a writer as Fraction, because he had to kill the dog, and I hate it when you kill the dog. It's not good. I cried a bit, and I didn't care for it, and it hurt, and that's good writing, good storytelling. I very much enjoyed it, but I am so mad, because how could you make a character and put them through so much pain? Yeah, Die is really good, though. It's been very enjoyable, and this issue was no exception. And honestly, that scene can just go straight to hell, because all the grief. In a good way. Go to hell in a good way. That wasn't even my favorite comic this month. There was another issue of House of X. I'm going to take a step back. I love the way Jonathan Hickman writes comics, where it's less presenting a story to you and more showing you the insides of a machine and adding gears and turning the crank and having things move as he adds more gears and more things move. And this was as like meticulous and machine-like an issue as I have seen in a long time, where it was just layers on layers. It had this graph that I love. Like, I love the thing that Hickman does where he just, like, I'm just going to stop the story for a minute to tell you the history of how Sentinels become Omega Sentinels. Like, we're just going to talk about that for a whole page. And, we'll get back to the stuff that you actually care about. But you need to know this before we move on. And it's pretty fascinating, but you're essentially just reading a textbook in the field of my comic. And, yeah, I've never really given a poo about Moira McTaggart, and I certainly do now. She is an interesting linchpin for this comic. So it's... I really enjoyed the way that this issue was told, and I'm afraid nothing else in the series will live up to that, but I'm glad Marvel got the movie rights back for the X-Men so we can tell good X-Men stories again, and this is a really interesting paradigm shift for the X-Men, all of the House of X, Powers of X stuff. And so it is going to be real interesting to see where things are at the end of this run, and they actually start having to tell stories with these X-Men outside of what Hickman has laid the groundwork for. Just fantastic stuff, though. Like, just what an interesting concept. What a bizarre and interesting concept, and how many directions you can go with this concept. It's fantastic. There's another month. I did another month of comics. Hope you liked them. Hope you watched through to the end so you can hear me singing. I'll see you next month. More comic reviews. One word or less, and then a bunch more words. Pow, 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 pow.